Alright, so I'm outside of the 2020 Honda Ridgeline, and this is the RTL edition. So this is going to be one step above the Sport, which is your base model. So under the hood, you're looking at a 3.5 liter V6 engine, 280 horsepower, and then it's working off a 9-speed transmission. Down here, you'll notice that you do have an 18-inch wheel. As we move around to the front of the car, I'll point out that you've got LED daytime running lights, and then your standard halogen beam headlights, and then you do have fog lights in this vehicle. You've got a nice kind of honeycomb finish with a chrome-topped grille. Right behind this is where you'll find one of the Honda sensors. And then up top here, you'll see up here in the glass, there's an additional camera that's going to be used as part of Honda sensing. So this is some corrective driving features and safety features. Now this car does come with a moonroof, so I'll point it up top there. And as we move around to the side, I'll point out that it does have breakaway mirrors that are body colored here. So it's kind of nice. It keeps them looking good. And then, of course, you do have keyless entry, so I can walk up, throw my hand on the door handle. It'll unlock for me, and I can open it, or I can lock the doors right there off the button. So I don't have to get my key fob out of my pocket when I'm using this vehicle. Now, I'm going to start you at the back of this car because it's probably the most unique and different from a lot of other trucks out there in the world. The first thing I'm going to point out is going to be your tailgate here. It is set up with a hitch down below, so you've already got that built into the car. It's badged, and then you've got your backup camera right there next to the handle. Now, where it differs is this has a dual setup, right? So I can flip it down like a classic bed of a truck, right? But where it changes is that I can flip this back up, and then you'll notice it even says it right here. It says release. If I reach my hand under, it's dual action. So I can slide it up in two different ways. And what's really even cooler about this is that all these trucks are set up with this, is it has a built-in lockable storage system here. So I can throw my key and lock this or unlock it. And what's cool is that I could store any of my belongings. So instead of buying a tool chest and taking up additional space in my bed, I don't have to do that in this car. So you can see the carpet floor mats here. And then if you wanted to throw ice and drinks in this and go somewhere, and then when it was time to go, pull the plug and leave, you could absolutely do that. And you can see your spares right here instead of underneath the car. So I would just, untoggle these, untoggle this, and then this whole piece slides out and I could get my donut off of there. So it's really cool that they do this in the truck. It already has a liner set up in it, so that's not an additional cost that you'd be looking at when you're looking at trucks. And it has tie downs already set up in the car too, so those aren't upgrades either. These just come standard in the car. Now, if you want some additional storage, you've got it right here. I can flip it down, store something in here. If you wanted that to be powered, to where I could power something as I drive to a different site, or if I was going somewhere, you can absolutely get that. You just want to climb up to the next model, the RTLE. So when it comes to that, I will mention the RTLE also has an in-bed audio system. So if you want to listen to this while you're out tailgating, you absolutely could in the next model up. There's a long list of things that you're getting climbing up a model. I think Honda's really focusing on trying to buy that RTLE, but I want to start you here to show you some things. So you'll notice it does have the glass that will open in the back. And then let's go into the second row here and check out some different things. All right, so you've got a leather interior in your RTL, so L being leather. What's really cool is that you can flip them up, and what I like about being able to flip these up is that there's not some huge railing system underneath, so if I want to store something down here, I really can. I've got storage underneath the seats, or if I just want to flip it up and use this space, I absolutely can. And then to throw it back down, pull your handle, let it down, and you're good to go. So leather in here, and then I've got, my center console if I want to flip it down, give myself somewhere to put some drinks. I do have air vents in the back of this car, which is kind of nice if you've got those backseat riders, so you're not waiting for the air to get here from the front of the car. And I've got the seats pushed all the way back, and I can still sit behind myself. So a 6-footer can sit behind a 6-footer, but I will say it's tight. So just be aware of that if you're looking at this truck. Now, your Ridgeline, I don't know how much of this you can see. Yeah, you can't see any of it, but I'll tell you, 37,790 right here is where this starts after your destination, and then you've got 19 in the city, 26 on the highway, so combined with 22, and then a 5-star overall crash rating. So as we move to the interior of the car, it is a powered seat on this side, so 10-way powered here and 4-way on the other side, just meaning on the other side you can't flip it, you can't raise or lower the seat. So I can raise, lower, up, down, adjust my back, and then my lower lumbar support is going to be right here too, so my controls as far as affecting all those things. Now over here, I do have my window controls with auto up and down on my driver and passenger side, so one touch will send them all the way down. Then my door locks, my window locks. If I want to pop the gas cap, I can do that right here. And then as far as popping the hood of the car, I can do that right here. While I'm thinking about it, I'll pop that just to show you kind of what you're working with underneath the hood, because I know occasionally I do get asked the question of, hey, if I pop open the hood and need to do something, how hard is it going to be to do that? So let me see if I can do this with one hand and find it. There we go. All right, so when I pop it open, you'll notice that they have a nice case covering over everything, which you can view that as a good or bad thing. It's going to keep some of the water and some of the elements out. So covering there, covering here. You've got your air vent right here. The only knockoff that I don't like about this is you can see your battery lives behind this, but you can still access it. But if you needed to pull the battery out, you got to pull off the air box. So just something to be aware of. And then I've got, you know, some sensors set up here, and then I've got my major fuse box sitting over here, and then my electronic brake distribution and things like, you know, windshield wiper fluids and that. So you can still access a lot of it, and you can see my oil there and dipsticks and different things here. So you can still access most everything. The only thing I don't like is having to take the air box off to get to my battery. It's just something we use because when you're at the dealership, you're constantly unplugging them if they're sitting on the showroom floor, so you don't set off the alarms to them. So let's crank her up, foot on the brake, press the start button, and it'll crank up for me here. And I'll show you the display here, and we'll go over some things. All right, so right now you can see that it's actually telling me I left one of the doors open. So close that door. All right, so let's turn the touchscreen down here, and we'll start from here. So over on the left side, you can see I have my classic tachometer, and then on my digital display as far as the you know, the speed limit or miles per hour, and then I've got my gas here and my temperature. So pretty classic display. And then as far as what I want to see in that center display, you know, I can pop up and show you some different things here. How I am doing so is working off of the steering wheel right here. So let me turn the AC down so it's not pumping at us, and we can scroll through some menus here. So if I want tripometer information, I've got it right there. You know, that's A and B. And then my tire pressuring, I do like that they show you per tire and it's digitally displayed so I can see what the actual tire pressure is. So it's just kind of nice to know. And then my oil life, it'll show me right there. When I get down to 15%, it'll give me an alert. And then it'll actually throw me a code A1, B1, or B2, or A2. And it'll let me know what Honda's going to recommend. So if you happen to pop into the dealership, it'll tell you ahead of time. You can look it up online or in your manual, and it'll let you know, hey, they're recommending oil change and tire rotation or whatever it may be. So moving over onto the side with some of these buttons over here. The first ones I'm going to show you is going to be your mirror controls. So they're right there, and they're next to my Econ button. My Econ button is going to improve the gas mileage of the car. So how it works is whenever you engage that button, you're going to see a green leaf pop on up here. So you can see it right there. And what it's doing is it's just affecting or limiting, I should say, the usage of the engine and some of the electrical systems in the front of the car, but giving you better gas mileage. So you're going to lose a little bit of acceleration off the pedal, and you're also going to lose a little bit of a little bit of power from the AC unit. So just something to keep in mind if you're looking at this vehicle. And then next to it, of course, you know, pretty standard setup, you know, left and right, and then adjust on the mirrors. Now down below that, you got your road departure mitigation system, which I just engaged. You can see the green is on. What that is, if I start to drive off the shoulder of the road, it'll give me an audible alert and then shake the wheel to say, hey, wake up, pay attention. And I can turn that on and off anytime I want. Next to it, vehicle collision mitigation braking. So what this is if it's looking like I'm coming up on another car, I'm going to rear end them. First it'll give me an audible alert, then it'll flash in the dash, and it'll actually apply the brakes to help prevent the accident. So safety feature built in, which you can turn on and off here too. Above that is vehicle stability assist. So this works with traction control. In the event that I go into a skid, it'll transfer power to whichever wheel is getting better traction to help correct for that. So that's what the function of this feature is. And then my cargo lighting in the back of the bed, if I want to turn that on, I absolutely can from right here. So that's just throwing on those backlights. Now, as we move up onto the steering wheel, I'll point out a couple different features here. You've got your menu button here, which will quickly switch between Bluetooth and audio, whatever you're trying to access. So it's just kind of a quick jump in between the two to allow you to do some different things. And then below that, you'll notice I've got volume controls. If I'm jumping between, you know, next songs or my favorite stations, that's what this is going to play for. And then my source button will switch between any of my options audio-wise. So FM, AM, if I had USB hooked up or Bluetooth, you know, any of those other options are connected, Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, it would allow me to toggle through all these different settings. So that's what the function of the source button is right here. Now down below that, I've got the menu button. If I have FM pulled up, this just allows me to access some of the different things off of here. So it'll pull up this menu right here, and then it'll tell me, you know, where I could select, hit enter, and different things I can do on the steering wheel. You know, if I want to scan it, so I don't have to play with the touchscreen while I'm driving. I could do it all from right here. I find that it's not that usable, just because I don't know anyone who uses it, and I haven't learned the buttons myself even, and I've been talking about these cars for years, so I don't know how functional this button really is. Down below that is my Bluetooth controls, so to answer a call, to hang up a call, and then to use a voice command. What's really cool about the voice command button is if I'm using this for Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, which I'll go over here in just a second, it allows me, you know, if I can press and hold till I hear the beep for Siri, and then be like, hey Siri, you know, send a text to this person, or hey Siri, pull up directions to this, without having to touch anything or anything. It'll immediately pull off my phone, access everything, and pull it up on the screen and do it for me. So I just really like that I can use Honda and ask Honda to do things, whether it be like, hey, place a call to this person or something like that, or I can use it for other things that Siri and Google can do if I'm an Android-based user also. It just gives me a lot more connectivity to my phone. So I really am a fan of these, this related to Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. While we're talking about that, Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. So to use it, I would plug my phone into the USB down here. And the first thing I'll tell you is it's 100% free. It doesn't cost you anything. If I'm an Apple-based user, you plug in, and then on your home screen, up here, you'll see this. It'll light up and say Apple CarPlay, or it'll say Android Auto. Now, if you're an Android-based user, you are going to need to download the Android Auto app. 100% free also. You can go to the Google Play Store and get it, or just Google Android Auto and it'll pop up, right? But you just need to have it as an Android user. And what this does is it gives me access. So I plug my phone into the USB and it allows me to access the screen, but it's going to pull up a bunch of different things that I have on my phone that integrate, right? So whether I want to access my maps, whether I'm using Google Maps or Waze, and if I'm an Apple-based user, I can even use Apple Maps or any of those other two. Or I can access my music. So if I want to listen to Spotify or Pandora, or if I have podcasts that I've saved to my phone, I have access to those right there too. And then just some additional apps too, if you use the WhatsApp app or some of these other apps, iHeartMedia, or different apps that just give you a little bit more connectivity through your phone. So it's really nice to have. I personally like it for the navigation system because I don't want to pay for a navigation system that in a year I'm going to have to go pay for another update on the maps. I'd rather just have a phone that's always updating on its own and it'll always project it up on the screen and do it for me. So that for me is reason enough to want to use Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. So that is how that works. Now, up on the right side of the steering wheel, I'm going to show you a couple different features here. If you press this main button, you're going to see ACC and LKS come on. And that stands for Lane Keep Assist and Adaptive Cruise Control. Now, Lane Keep Assist is going to use one simple button, and that is this button right here. And what it does is when I engage this button, you're going to see some dotted lines appear up there, right? So you can see them. Now you can see them. All right, so it's going to use that camera that I was pointing out earlier when we were outside of the car right here to detect the lines on the road as we're driving. And when these feel unsolid, which you have to be going over 45, and once it's actively reading the road, if I start to drift to my left or the right, it'll actually keep me centered to prevent me from drifting out of my lane and into a car next to me. Now, if I have my blinkers on, great, it's going to let me move over and go on about my business. But if I'm the kind of person who doesn't use my blinkers and I use this feature, it's probably going to kind of annoy you a little bit because it's not going to overpower you or anything, but it is there and you're going to feel it. If you've ever ridden in a car that pulls a little bit to the left or the right, that's what this function feels like when it's keeping you centered. So, just keep that in mind, but you can turn it on and off as you go. It's a simple press of a button. Now, adaptive cruise control. That is what ACC stands for. And it's classic cruise control, so you can see the standard buttons you're used to, set, cancel, resume. But then you can see this button over here. So once I get up to speed, I'd press set, and then where it says ACC off right there, it would show my speed, and then I can select the distance it keeps between me and cars in front of me, meaning that if I set my speed to 70, I'm using this button to set the distance, I get up to 70, I set my distance, driving down the highway, a guy hops in front of me going 55. What it's going to do is slow my car down because it's using not only that camera, but that sensor I pointed down in the grill. And it's going to slow me down until I get out from around that car and it doesn't detect anyone in front of me, and then it's going to take me back up to my speed. So if I'm taking a long road trip, maybe, from here, I'm driving 3 hours down to the coast, where this is going to play a role is that I can set it to 70, cruise on down the road, and as people get in front of me, it'll slow down, keep their spacing. As they get out from under me or I get around them, it's going to take me back up to my speed, so I don't have to cancel, resume, adjust the speed up and down and do all that nonsense. I can just set it once and forget it. So that's adaptive cruise control. Now, if you're saying, hey, Justin, that's great and all, but I just want a classic cruise control, press and hold this button for a couple seconds. You'll see it'll flip over and say cruise mode select. Now it's just classic cruise control with set, cancel, resume. Want to flip back? Press and hold. So that's how to toggle between classic and regular. Or I say classic and the adaptive cruise control. Now down below that, you're going to see some menu buttons here, and this will allow you to toggle through some different things here, and that's what I was toggling through earlier up here, all these different screens. So that's what I was using right here, these buttons right here, and then when you want to reset or select, that's what you're going to do. So once I find one I want, press it and I'll hold. Right? So easy enough to understand these. So that's kind of the rundown of the steering wheel in general. We can get a feel for that. You do have paddle shifter, so I can upshift and downshift the car. I've got a 9-speed transmission that I'm working through here, so if I want to drop down, give myself a little bit more power, whatever it may be, I can do so. Now over here, I do have auto on-off headlights, so if I want to set those, I can go right there, and then my fog light controls are right here, so easy to access both of those. And then on the other side is my windshield wiper controls. Pull down to set them, and they're intermittent, so I can affect the speeds and everything over here. Now, moving over onto the touchscreen of the car, I'll point out it's pretty easy to understand and use here. You've got your phone button right here, so this will pull up. If you've never connected a phone up, it'll prompt you through here, and you can go about your business and connect. Now, if you need to connect a second, third, or fourth phone, well, let's show you how. Go to Settings. From there, you're going to go to Bluetooth and Wi-Fi, and then there's this device list right here that you want to select because you want to add something to that list. And you got 2, 4, 6 here that you can connect. So you can connect up to 6 devices to this, and just add device, and then it'll prompt you, turn on your Bluetooth, and go. So the only thing I don't like about this touchscreen, just to start you off, is you'll notice down the side here, there's no buttons or knobs. And a lot of the other models in the last couple of years, they've switched over to where you have a volume knob, and these are ridged, or you can film. I don't like that they've still left this in this model. I feel like it's kind of like one of those things where they're just waiting until they go their next rendition of this car, and then they're going to adjust those. Because it is hard to reach over here sometimes and feel around. I mean, mind you, I will say if you're adjusting the volume, I can be anywhere in here and I can do this. Which not everybody knows, but it's not that easy to reach over and do this, and not everybody's going to use their steering wheel controls, right? So just something to be aware of. This is a little bit of a dated setup, although it is very workable and very usable. It just doesn't have the buttons and knobs that the newer models, and I should say not Ridgeline newer models, but newer other models, newer lines sitting out there on the lot have. So from the home button, if I want to pull up some tripometer information, I can absolutely do that from right here. So I can view all that info here and see it's that same info that I had pulled up earlier. So if I want to have it here, or if I want to flip over and have it here because I'm taking a long trip and I just want to be able to see it, I absolutely can. Audio-wise, all your options, if you press the source button up here, it'll pull up and show you. And so you're going to have FM, AM, USB. So I could plug like a USB in down here and put a bunch of music on it and be able to listen to that music. Or I could, set that USB down here in the additional USB spot down here in the center console. So it's just kind of cool that I could download a whole bunch of music, put it on a USB, and then be able to play it off of there. Just remember, if you're going to put it on a USB, it has to all be in one folder, in that initial folder when you open up, so you can't like have songs in folders and folders and folders, or it won't be able to find them. So just be aware of that. And then Bluetooth and the aux. That aux is actually in here too. So if I flip this up, you actually have both. You have the aux above, which I can't put my hand down there and show you, and the USB down below. So that's your audio options in this vehicle. Now, moving over to Honda Link. Really what Honda Link offers initially for free to every single car is when you connect up a phone, it'll prompt you, and the last prompt you'll see is, hey, would you like to connect up to Honda Link? And what it's saying is that if you get into an accident, your airbags deploy first, Honda will call down to you. If you don't answer the phone, they'll then call 911 and they'll send somebody out to you because they'll have your GPS location, your year, make, model, and VIN. So it's just really helpful. It's 100% free. Additionally, off of that, Honda Link offers some additional features, whether it be concierge features, whether it be being able to start the car from the phone, unlock and lock the doors from the phone. Some of those are subscription-based, and they do give you some to start off just to try out. But if you're curious about more information on what all is available, go to HondaLink.com, and you can pull it up. Smartphone connection, we mentioned earlier, Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. As I mentioned, plug your phone into this specific USB with the phone on it, and then it'll access and allow you to pull that up on the screen. And then your settings over here. This would be, any of the settings, whether it be related to Bluetooth, audio, the cameras, if I want to turn guidelines on. Vehicle is kind of cool because there's some different features in here that you can play with. If you go to door setup, this is where you can control your doors. So auto door lock, when I hit 10 miles an hour, it's set up to automatically lock the doors. Maybe I want to turn that off. Then I have to back out of that and go to auto door unlock. When I unlock my driver's side door, it then unlocks the remaining doors of the car. Maybe you want to change that, or you want to completely turn it off because you're the only one ever in the car and you don't need it to be unlocking doors. So just some different features that you can play with around here. I really like a lot of them. So different things you can turn on if you wanted to answer back when you lock the doors, and different things like that where it beeps or honks at you. So plenty of things that you can play with in here. So just be aware of that. Now, related to that, I believe under your keyless access here, keyless access, under vehicle settings, if you go to keyless access here, walkaway auto lock, this is a really cool feature. If I turn this feature on, because the default is not for it to be enabled, what it means is that when I get 10 feet from the car, if I have the key with me, it'll automatically lock the doors of the car. So if you get halfway into the grocery store and you realize you left your laptop in the car, and you're like, crap, I'm not sure if I locked it, and you're not going to be comfortable until you know it's locked, turn this feature on. So I'll show you how to get to it real easy, how to get to all those. Go to settings, and from settings, I'm going to go to vehicle, and then from vehicle, I can go to the door lock settings, and then if I want to do the auto lock, go to keyless access setup, and it's right there. So that's where those are. So just 3 settings I'll point out there real quick for you to take advantage of. So that's the touchscreen of the car and how it works, and you can see I've got my power button, home button, which is what you're on right now, your volume, menu, back, and then a dimmer. Down below that, I got my AC control, so I can control left, right, and rear separate of each other, which is a little bit overkill, I feel like, in this truck because it is a small cabin, but you do have the ability to do that, and you can control your rear settings from right here. So if I flip over, now I can control the rear, flip back, now I can control left and right separate each other. If I unsync them, I could have low, 58, I could change this one to 59 and have all 3 different temperatures going, right? The fan speed is what will remain constant. I do have heated seats in this car, so when I engage, and then you got 3 different options on both sides, and then you saw I've got a power outlet and a USB here. My shifter is not a classic setup, so I don't have a hand shifter here. I've got buttons, but it's easy to understand. Park, when I throw it into reverse, it'll pop on my backup camera. So a wide angle view here, normal view, and then one aim straight down. This is fantastic. If I'm backing up to connect up to a trailer, my hitch, I know where it's at, so all I got to do is back up and I can check and see exactly where I'm at and line everything up. I mean, shoot, you could even put a little flag or a little marker on your bumper if you really wanted to know exactly where your hitch was at, but chances are, if you got a hitch connected to it, it's going to be sticking out, so you're going to see it anyway, right? But let's say you don't, and you're going to put it on once you get back there. So it's really cool, really helpful, and just easy to use. So take advantage of this. This is a fantastic setup as far as the display screen goes when it comes to your backup camera. Switching to neutral, my driver sport mode, snow. So if I want to switch between normal and snow, and you can tell what traction control system you're in right there, because when I toggle through it shows you. And then my idle start stop, not a fan of this feature, but I understand that it exists for a reason. It helps improve gas mileage of the car, because what it does is when you come to a stop at, let's say, a a light. It can turn off the engine but leave the electronics in the car on, and then it'll crank back up on. But if you don't want that on, you can press this button and turn it off. So it's nice that you at least have that control. But every time you turn on the car, you'll have to engage this or disengage it, depending on, it's always engaged unless you disengage. So just be aware of that. All right, so your center console, first thing I like is that it's nice and smooth here and I can cover it completely. And then moving into it, I've got a nice deep well here, and I do have a rubber finish bottom here that I can pull out and wash off. Along with I got rubber finish right here too that I can pull out and wash off. You saw that I've got a power outlet here, and then I've got a USB and an aux input. And then here I do have a sliding shelf if I got change or something that I need to keep in there, or keys. So nice big setup there. Now, this car has the black interior. You can see it's perforated for the heat here. I've always got black interior. Doesn't matter what car you're in, it's always gonna be black on the floorboard, black on your dash, black on your door sills, and that's to prevent glare, and then to prevent dirt and dust from showing, right? So easy to understand. Now, if I'm flipping around and looking out the back window, that's what your view looks like. So pretty good view there. I can see the end of my bed too, which is kind of nice. So just so you can be aware of that. Classic setup on the mirror. If I wanted that auto dimming mirror, I'd want to climb a model. And then I've got, throwing my moonroof open and different things like that. And it does come with home link and all that set up here. So garage clicker, gate clicker, I can connect those up, and then my map lighting things. So the rest of this is what I call new car stuff, guys. It's stuff that you already know what it is and how it works. It's in every car. Got a little mirror in if I need to keep an eye on the dogs or whatever sitting in the back so if it's sliding around, or the kiddos. So next up is going to be the test drive, where we're talking about the model above it, what you're gaining, what you're paying for if you move up a model, and then of course, hey, is it worth it? What's the ride like? Is it loud? Is it noisy? Tell me more about the car, and is it worth owning compared to like a Tacoma or some of these other models? The Chevy Colorado, there's been a lot of new additions in the last couple of years into this competitive area. So I would say these smaller pickups are really coming back. You're seeing Rangers land back in the mix and different things. So we'll talk about that as we go on the test drive next. So I'm inside of this 2020 Honda Ridgeline, and this is the RTL edition. So this is one step above what would be the base model, which would be your sport model. So we're going to take this sucker on a ride and see what it feels like. But as we head on this ride, I want to go over a couple things. First, let's talk about some of the other models in this class. There's actually a lot now. You can see that there's a Chevy Colorado, which I've ridden in, which is a similar ride, but I will say it's a little bit rougher ride in that vehicle than this one. But part of that is this is a unibody setup, so it's a little bit different setup than what you classically see of a truck. So I will describe that, comparing it to like a Ranger, which is now recently been released. We're gonna use that loosely. Let's give it some gas though and see what we got here. So I'm gonna gas her up here, picking up speed. I've got a 9-speed transmission. I'm up to 60, so plenty of power. You got 280 horsepower in this car, and it can get up to speed quickly. So back over to some of the other models here. Classically, this used to compete mainly with the Toyota Tacoma, just because you see a lot of buyers, typically Toyota or Honda buyers. But the Ridgeline is kind of its own oddity because it offers some different features in the back of the car, which you saw earlier as we walked the car, as far as tailgate systems, dual action setups, Honda sensing, and a lot of tech in the car. Now, if you're saying I love tech and I want more of it, then you're gonna want to climb models. The RTLE seems to be where Honda's really placing their focus, because in the RTLE is where you're going to see, a lot of additional features, whether it be cross-traffic monitoring when you're backing up, so sensors off the back of the car to let you know what direction people are coming from, or hey, maybe you're thinking, I want an in-bed audio system, so where I go out and tailgate or hang out with people by the river, I'm going to be able to listen to music outside of the car, not just inside of the car. So that's going to land on your RTLE edition also. Now, if you're thinking I want memory seating, because me and the wife are in the car, or whoever, your spouse or whoever it may be, and we want to be able to set those, those settings and hold them, also in the E edition. So there are going to be a lot of features related to the car that you're going to see land up. So moving up a model, while you're all jumping up a couple $1,000, you are actually gaining a laundry list, because I haven't even hit all of the features that are added in, but I will mention some of the big ones, which are those. So look into that. If you're thinking about going up a model, it may be worth it because you do get quite a bit. A lot of times when you get higher into the trim levels, you're not getting that much climbing a model. It's like an extra $2,000 is getting you one or two things. In this specific car, you do actually gain a lot. But maybe those aren't features you want. Maybe they're not features you need. And if they're not, well then, hey, save yourself some money. You don't need the in-bed audio. You don't need cross-traffic monitoring. You don't need, the additional management systems as far as the traction control settings. Then maybe that's not for you. You're just saying, hey, I just need a simple truck that has all-wheel drive and I want leather seats. This is a fantastic option for you. So just something to keep in mind. And it does offer pretty much everything that you would get out of a Colorado, out of a Ford Ranger, out of a Tacoma. Because I will say that a lot of the people who look at trucks, and I'm guilty of doing this myself, will look for the most they can get out of it. Oh, I need to pull the most, I need to tow the most, when realistically, how often are you going to tow things? You know, there's going to be a couple people watching this video goes, hey, I tow regularly and that's why I'm looking at trucks. Hey, for you, I completely understand. Towing is important to you. However, for the average person who looks at a truck, maybe you're towing once a year, twice, you know, if you're pulling a camper or a boat or something of that nature. But if you're looking for a general truck that will get everything you need done, give you some storage in the back that's lockable without paying extra, get you an in-bed liner that doesn't cost you a single buck, get you tie-downs in the liner that don't cost you a single buck, it's a great way to go. Coming from a family that's owned Toyota Tacomas, I know that all those seem to add on to the truck. It's not something that's just included. So you find yourself buying the truck and then adding all these things. And as someone who owns a Jeep Wrangler right now, I know all about adding tons of stuff to cars just because that seems to be the life of that car and it seems to be part of the culture. So if that's your culture and you want to start with something and add all your own things, hey, maybe this isn't the car for you, or maybe it is because it already has all those features and you can roll it all into one payment and go that route. But if you're looking for something a little more basic, you could always go down to the sport model and give up the leather and give up the touchscreen in this car and give up the powered seating, and that would save you a few $1,000. And maybe that's perfect for you. You're just saying, hey, I need a point A to point B truck to get me around and throw stuff in the bed and occasionally pull something. Perfect, it'll work for you. Not the cheapest option. If you're looking for the cheapest way to go, you could probably get very much a work truck, you know, from Ford or from, you know, Toyota or from, you know, Chevy, and maybe save yourself a little bit of money, but you're going to give up on a lot of features, you know, where suddenly backup cameras and basic features, door locks and window controls or manuals and stuff that, you know, I would say should be a basic function at a 2020 model. So just things to keep in mind if you're looking at this vehicle. Now, with that said, cruise is great. It's a nice, smooth ride. It's surprisingly smooth, you know, compared to some of my largest vehicles, you know, my Pilots and my Honda Odyssey, my minivan. As far as the cruise and the ride and the smoothness, they're very comparable. As far as being in the inside of the truck and the loudness in the cabin, it's not quite as quiet as some of those vehicles, but it's pretty darn close. So as far as having a conversation with someone or taking a long trip or being able to talk via Bluetooth on the phone, you would have absolutely no issue with that. Which I find that a lot of people run into sometimes in trucks is that they'll be on Bluetooth and they're having to yell and scream at their friends because they can't hear them that well. It works really well in this vehicle. So not only can you add that to the quietness of the cabin, you should be good to go. Now, related to that, and as far as where this car is going in the future, it hasn't seen a body style change in a couple years here, and I did mention earlier, if you're watching, that the touchscreen's a little bit outdated, so those are things that I don't like about it, but it does offer a lot of things that just no other truck out there does. I always start at the tailgate because I think it's a really cool option, being able to, you know, dual action control, shift it and slide it completely open or fold it down. Then having built-in storage is just fantastic. And the actual in-bed liner in this car is really nice, so it's not your classic one that's going to immediately get scratched up and get sun damage in a year. So I've seen them come in through service departments over year after year, and eventually it's going to fade out, which you can actually, there's different things you can do about that, but I found that it lasts a lot longer than some of the other liners I've seen out there. So as far as looking into this truck, is it the cheapest option out there? Absolutely not. It's probably going to land, you know, middle to a little bit on the higher than middle side, but I will tell you, for what you're spending extra, you are getting a great product. Now, does Honda typically attract you know, truck buyers? No, I think you typically land in Ford or Chevy would be your big, you know, competitors as far as, hey, I want to buy a truck. Who do I classically think to look at? But what I can tell you is that a lot of the people who typically own this car typically end up owning more than one. I can think of one particular guy that I think he was on number 9 that I sold him to. Now, mind you, that's a little bit of an oddity, but I do see people own 2 and 3 of these. And that's because I think that they find it's a really solid vehicle. It's good. You can take it over 100,000 miles, whereas sometimes I think in the domestic you know, world of vehicles, and that's coming from someone who owns one, you get over 100,000 miles and you start looking to dump a vehicle off unless you've really taken care of it. You know, typically, you know, they start to have issues. On a Honda truck, you can get well past that, and it's still going to hold value, which is also another thing you'll see that, you know, when you get over that 100,000 mark and you're looking to sell an older, you know, pickup, a lot of times they don't necessarily hold the value that well unless you bought the very top end model, and then you're not holding value, it just started at a higher price point. But on a Honda model, I will say that you could buy something that has higher mileage if you're looking in the used market and still come out ahead because it is a solid vehicle that will run. So for that reasons, I wouldn't mind even looking at a pre-owned model. But what I've noticed is pre-owned models are hard to find, so you're not going to get a lot of options out there, because this is probably one of the least produced models that Honda makes, because that's not their bread and butter. They're known for making, you know, essentially point A to point B cars. So you think Honda Accord, you think Civics, you think vehicles like that that have been around since the, you know, the 80s or the 70s. So when I'm looking at this model, I would say it's not for your typical classic truck buyer, but that's not a bad thing. Maybe you want to look outside the box because you are that person, or maybe you really aren't the classic
truck buyer and you're looking for a different option that's going to give you the ride quality that Honda offers, the reliability and the safety features, corrective driving and braking features, but you still want a solid ride that you can tow, you can use the bed of your pickup. This would be an absolutely fantastic option. I'd recommend it to a lot of people, but I also understand that it's not necessarily the immediate go-to. So just something to be aware of. This kind of lands in the outliers as far as the truck world goes, but as far as the options I think it offers, there's a lot of different things that this vehicle is doing that not a lot of the other trucks are doing, and especially offering options up that are standard, that are not additional packages where you push the price up so far up that you're not even in a relatable number at that point. So something to keep in mind if you're looking at the Honda Ridgeline. This is the RTL. If you want to go down a model, you can go to the Sport, and like I said, give up the leather, give it the touchscreen and some of those features, Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, or you can climb up to the RTLE and get a laundry list of features. So if you have questions, feel free to reach out. You can always call or text me. My phone number is 737-443-9555 if you want to call or text. And then if you want to email me, the letter J and then F and then _1064 at Yahoo. Or comment on the YouTube video. And while I'm talking about that, I have a couple favors to ask you. One, please leave a comment. Let me know what you think. Let me know if you feel like I left something out or there's something you want to go over, so that way I can do it in the future. And then two, like the video, and of course I hope that you'll subscribe. Outside of that, I look forward to hearing from you. I hope you're doing well. Hopefully you're watching and you enjoyed it. Let me know in the comment section and we'll go from there. Bye guys.